A senior lecturer at the Department of International Relations and Diplomacy at Al Amin University of Nigeria, Dr. Emmanuel Zwanbin underscored the need for fostering regional integration and developing sense of Pan-Africanism to bring sustainable development in the region. Abeba Brahani presents the story.
Africa Unite.
The 2024 African Union Summit is going to be held on 17th and 18th of February. African governments and heads of states will gather together in Addis Ababa to discuss on issues of peace, security, integration and development. On the today's summit, leaders of Africa are expected to come up with innovative ideas that can bring and sustain peace, security, integration and development in the continent. In an exclusive interview with Amhara Media Corporation, a senior lecturer at the Department of International Relations and Diplomacy at Al Amin University of Nigeria, Dr. Emmanuel Zwanbin stated that Africans should foster regional integration between and among themselves to ensure peace, security and development in the continent. As to the explanation of Dr. Emmanuel, fragmented infrastructural development and lack of market integration are the biggest contributing factors for the low-level development of the continent Africa.
African problem in terms of integration can be traced back from the foundation of the formation of Organization for African Unity. But I can tell you we've gone away from that since the formation of African Union and then the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. This is one of the largest, if you like, in the world, and one of the most pragmatic steps that African people have taken to integrate Africa. But I can tell you we have a big problem. Look at infrastructure. Our infrastructure is not integrated. If I'm going to make a call from here to Ethiopia or to Kenya, to Uganda, it's more expensive to make a call to China or to the US. Why? If I'm going to fly from Nigeria to Kenya, it's probably the same cost of flight to fly into China. Because our framework are not integrated, internet facility is not integrated, banking system is not integrated, transport system is not integrated, energy is not integrated. So we have fragmented infrastructural development, which is not helping to enhance integration or trade.
Dr. Emmanuel in his speech underscored the need for social integration strategy and free movement of people in the continent Africa to ensure the development of the continent.
Social integration is a major sector of this integration. Africans, we have refused to accept each other. We would rather accept white friendly to them than to accept our fellow Africans. You can never have trade without moving around. Moving around, trading and working. And that framework is not effective yet. Chino Achebe say, when brothers fight, a stranger reap the harvest. And that's what we're suffering. Keep fighting ourselves. When two brothers fight, a stranger reap the harvest.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing. I have lived in East Africa, and I also blame my country. Our visa regime is very stringent. Africans cannot easily work in Africa and move freely in Africa. The cost of work permit in Africa is too expensive. A white person can pay for it. Who comes from Europe, paying $2,000 is not a big deal. But a poor African cannot afford to pay for that. Nigeria's got a lot of professors. Kenya is looking for professors. We've got a lot of doctors. Kenya went to Cuba to bring doctors when we have a lot of them in Nigeria or elsewhere in Africa or South Africa. I don't understand what and why we do what we are doing to ourselves. When we have cheap labor in Africa, why can't we exchange what we have in terms of manpower, in terms of ideas, in terms of values? Why can't we exchange that? And I believe we should look towards a social integration strategy for African people.
Dr. Emmanuel further stated that the integration and the development of Africa can never be ensured in the absence of the idea of Pan-Africanism.
We need to promote the idea of Pan-Africanism. We are Africans. We believe we're Africans. We share common history and common values. We've gone through a lot. We must embrace each other. That's first and foremost. Second, we need to have Africans that are pragmatic, who believe in Africa. We can keep talking about Africa when we are not committed to supporting African values and ideals. How would you talk about Pan-Africanism and you are funded by China, funded by Europe, funded by America? Then African leaders are not committed to that. Look at the hunger that we are going through. Look at the climate change crisis we are going through. Look at the impact of COVID-19. We had to depend on China and Europe to give us vaccine. We're not making progress. Okay, so I would like a pragmatic system where African intellectuals will be involved in putting out robust research.
Emmanuel underscored that Africa needs to have diasporic diplomacy to bring and ensure growth and development.
If we can promote what I call the social integration, if we can embrace each other as young people, I can tell you that Africa will be somewhere. Look at the kind of inventions and innovations of young African people who had to leave Africa to Europe or America. Look at the exploit they are doing, and nobody survives without the diaspora. If we can promote diasporic diplomacy where we can have African people to return back to Africa and find good environment to express their skills and ideas, I can tell you Africa is going to grow. Not to have a system where one leader wakes up and manipulates institutional policies, no investment will grow. We need African people to return back to Africa. They are the ones who are genuinely committed to African development. When they bring their investments to Africa, they will be committed to getting it moved. It's not a capital flight. They will build Africa, invest in Africa, and leave Africa develop.
Emmanuel finally recommended that African leaders should have big commitment for change and should do something more than having a meeting.
I have no problem that Africa can deal with its problem, but I have problem that African leaders fly to Addis Ababa, make noise, and fly back, and that is it. It ends there. If we're committed to all the regimes, the values, and the frameworks that are put in place, I can tell you they are fantastic. My concern for this meeting is that we want to see commitment.
Africa unite.